Where a lot of brands go wrong headed into Q4 is firing agencies or not hiring the right person from the very beginning. Now, of course, limiting risk, there's always going to be risk with any partnership you encounter, but our goal is always to limit the amount of risk and maximize the amount of potential. So, in terms of vetting talent, in terms of finding the right partner, here are the 4 qualities I look for when making a decision when bringing on either a fractional CMO, maybe an ad agency, so on and so forth. So before I kick things off, I want to preference real quick. I've come from the agency background. I ran my own agency. I did creatives for brands. Now ultimately I run a consulting firm. So I've pivoted in the market. I've worked in numerous dynamic business relationships. Now, I'm not saying all ad agencies are bad. That's truly not the case. There are good people in this space that provide a lot of information, and ultimately I learn from those people. I pay people at the highest ranks in this game to learn from. So what I've noticed is that at scale, the agency model in itself is flawed. Not the person, not the agencies itself in this game. It's just the actual model. Why? Because think about it. A service-based business model, specifically marketing agency, where the relationship starts off as the founder pays said agency to run the ads. The agency is paid on purely just management. Now, for the agency to scale, because let's say on average, they may be charging 2, 3, 4K a month retainers, right? Given that the market is saturated and really competitive, you could find talent for like 1K, 2K to manage your ads. Well, depending on expertise. Now, when we segue into this position, when we have a moment where there's just ultimately a lack of growth, right? The agency is no longer incentivized on growing your business because they're just collecting a check at the end of every month. And the way that agency scales is by signing on more brands. Vice versa for you as a brand owner, as you're trying to scale to 6 to 7 to 8 figures a year, it requires different levels of expertise. So a brand at 6 figures a year might need more expertise compared to a brand at 7 figures a year or 8 figures a year. Because ultimately at scale, the higher you rank as far as like 7 figures a year, 8 figures a year, the more market fit and the more consistent your product sells in the market. Versus a brand trying to get their first 6 figures a year, they need to establish product market fit. So there's more upside that has to be accomplished in order to generate profit. So I say this to say the first relationship dynamic I look for is ultimately to be flexible with your model. Be flexible with your incentive. Because a brand going to 6 to 7 figures a year requires more inventory, a more structured approach, everything tight-knit, compared to a brand at 7 to 8 figures a year, right? That brand has more cash flow, more luxury to now hire more talent. So work or try to encompass a dynamic that benefits both parties so that you incentivize, let's say, a fractional CMO to grow your business instead of just collecting a check. That's where most relationships fail, especially in the agency and eCom founder dynamic. Now, another quality to look out for is ultimately track record, right? Track record always is important, but not just track record. It's okay. The brand you worked with in the past, what was their product? What were their bottlenecks within their business? How can you apply it to our business, right? That's kind of where I see a lack of expertise from partnerships when vendors aren't familiar with the brand and the founder believes that that vendor should know just as much as the founder, right? Where certain elements I see make sense is you have a vendor, right? They're expert at paid media. You're the founder, you're the brand owner, and you have a base level of running ads, but you need the next step. You hire that CMO, consult you on actually building paid media and setting out systems, automations, and looking to build a system to where now the founder no longer has to manage ads, right? You have that team, but you shouldn't be reliant on just having an agency or outsource and that's controlling your marketing. When I would say the marketing is probably the most important element to your business, to your growth. So you want to ideally build operations in-house, right? So first of all, we want to look at the quality of talent. And then ultimately, we want to build that talent and bring them in-house. We want talent to only be focused on our business, on our product. If talent is in an agency, they have 10, 15 other client rosters, or they have 10 to 15 other clients in their roster. So I want specialized focus for my brand, for my product. Now, third, when it comes to validating talent and finding the right partnerships, apart from track record, apart from having knowledge in the industry, I want somebody who's up to date with strategies, right? Somebody who's always learning, right? I see too many times where media buyers, CMOs that I speak to that are on the older demographic, they're using outdated models, outdated tactics that doesn't yield ROI. 2024, the game is changing. AI tech is here, right? We have innovations with technology, and the moment we use this, the more we can get efficient with our production, the more we can scale, vice versa. So we need to utilize AI tech ASAP. We need to get our efficiency back. Now, the last thing when vetting talent, finding the right partnership, is ultimately comes down to strategy to an extent of your North Star. What is your North Star? As a founder, you need to have that aligned with any fractional CMO. Because if you're trying to get set up for an exit, I would say your North Star should be EBITDA. If you're not trying to get set up for an exit, your North Star should always be maximizing profit, right? With EBITDA, you can get away with debt, so on and so forth. But for the highest multiple possible, we need first order profit, strong LTV. We need to know our numbers, know our financials, create a game plan that fits what our North Star is, what our objective is, and then reverse engineer backwards to reach that. Some brands don't want to exit, so then you could build accordingly. Some brands do want to exit, so you need to build accordingly. It's very important that you understand your goals, your mechanisms, and the best way to proceed that forward. So that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, drop them down below. I'll see you in the next one.